So 2026 is around the corner. It's Q4, and ChatGPT has been growing at an insane rate. And a lot more potential clients slash customers are definitely making a lot of searches and helping influencing, which brand they want to work with. And as of recent, like ChatGPT has been going through a lot of pretty much shifts and pivots, sort of similar to how like Google has their pretty much like Google search updates. ChatGPT has been doing something similar. And what I've been seeing lately is a lot of misinformation, especially how this is a new pretty much channel that, people are learning and growing with. So in this video, I want to break down exactly what's working that's data backed and based on experience that I've done with my clients. So I'm gonna break down exactly how to rank in ChatGPT in 4 different phases. All right, so I'm gonna break down exactly the step-by-step phases you should be undergoing to increase your chances of visibility within ChatGPT. So the first phase obviously is entity establishment. So pretty much if the LLMs doesn't understand your brand, how do you expect to be cited? So the main thing, especially if you're a brand new website, brand new business, trying to, create more visibility in terms of like ChatGPT, is establishing that entity, establishing that brand. So what I mean by this, so first of all, you want to create a knowledge graph about your business. So this is why social media platforms, creating, like listing your business in different directories and creating more of that entity of like exactly what you do and what type of industry you're serving. So creating LinkedIn profiles, YouTube, X profiles, Facebook, Crunchbase, or anything specific to your industry. So like, for example, if you're like a local business, creating like Yelp directories, Google business profiles, etc. And if you're more of like in a B2B space, creating things like, Crunchbase is going to definitely help out increasing more of like that entity establishment. So this way, when the LLMs are scraping, dependent on the query you're searching for, they understand who you are as a brand because it's searching throughout different search engines. You have to understand where I feel like a lot of people get mistaken is ChatGPT isn't a search engine. It's pretty much scraping a lot of these searches from Bing, from Google, which brings me into the next pretty much thing you should focus on, which is technical signal. So schema markup is extremely important. And basically what schema markup is an HTML code in the back end that drives and gives more context to the search crawlers in general and the LLM crawlers. So let me use Webflow as an example of schema markup, specifically organization schema markup, because there's different type of schema markups, right? You have like article schema markup, you have event schema markup, I guess like a quick breakdown here as well too, like FAQ schema markup. So there's a lot of different content pieces that can be pretty much created into a schema markup to further boost more context into a specific content piece that you have. So in this case, Webflow has a organization schema markup across all their pages, like the whole site in general. So if we see here, it's detected as a logo, aka organization schema markup. So if we click view schema markup, we can dive deeper into the specific script that they have. So we can see here the context is schema.org. The type of schema it is an organization schema where they're providing the name of the organization. So in this case, it's Webflow, pretty much giving the URL that, their URL that they have within their site. And then what's interesting is they also have the same as. So basically what I broke down before, like trying to establish more of like an entity base, giving more context to the LLMs of like what is the social platforms that are tied into the specific URL. And they actually gave all the URLs that are associated with this organization and URL. So all their URLs they have placed here. LinkedIn. What's interesting is also Wikipedia, which is one of the strongest cited sources currently in ChatGPT. Instagram, YouTube, and then they also have a little bit more context into like who are the founders here, the address, the description specifically to, like it's more like a 1 sentence, 2 sentence line description of what is this organization. And then keywords aren't really necessary, but they just added that on their end. But again, you're providing a lot more context, not only to the LLMs, but also to these search engines and to like who you are as a brand. And the biggest misconception people have is SEO is different from GEO, AEO, whatever you want to call it, positioning your brand within ChatGPT, which is false in general. So basically, again, as I stated before, ChatGPT is not a search engine. It's pretty much going through a process called query fan out, which I'm going to dive deeper a little bit later into phase two. But basically, what I just want to highlight is the importance of just like traditional on-page SEO, which is the strongest signal currently for you to position yourself higher. So topical authority signals is extremely important. If you're a lawyer and you're not really talking about specific questions people are searching for, you're not likely going to get cited, because at the end of the day, it's all about relevance, and the search engines are what's being scraped to pretty much have more context to provide an answer to that query. So you want your pages to get indexed, right? So setting up sitemaps within Google and Bing. Um, ChatGPT goes on and off on like scraping Google and Bing. Before it was majorly within Bing, but there's some cases where Google is also being cited. So again, indexing, setting up meta tags are relevant based on your traditional keyword research, finding queries people are already searching for in terms of like traditional search. This can give you pretty much a roadmap into what type of queries overall you want to target within AEO or ChatGPT search in general. So just a quick rundown. When we're looking at total visits within ChatGPT, there's about 5 million searches occurring. 5 million, 5 billion, my bad. It's a lot of searches right here. So we have 5 billion searches a month specifically within ChatGPT, right? So a lot of the businesses are currently focusing on, optimizing for AEO, getting a lot of visibility within that. But again, we can see here in comparison to Google, who is still the heavy hitter in terms of visibility in searches, this is only like a 1% traffic in comparison to Google. So Google, what I'm looking at across different clients is Google is obviously organic search is a lot bigger. But again, ChatGPT is currently one of the fastest growing channels. So that's something you should, take account into. And dependent on the type of industry, there's like a lot of B2B high intent searches happening with ChatGPT, which is important, and not to disregard ChatGPT. But again, it's a slow ramp process, and people think just because ChatGPT is gaining a lot, like, faster search market share, they think Google is just completely disregarded. But again, these two work in tandem. So if somebody's searching through ChatGPT, finds your brand, most likely they'll probably land and search within Google. So phase two is optimizing for AEO, or answer engine optimization. So after you have somewhat topical authority, you pretty much are doing traditional SEO, gaining a lot of, rankings in terms of like the keywords you're targeting that's really relevant to your ICP or target audience. You really want to dive deeper into answer engine optimization, right? So again, let me break down the grounding principle of how LLMs verify, a specific entity, looking at legitimacy dependent on the query. So again, as I stated before, it goes through a query fan out. So just a simple breakdown of what a query fan out is pretty much LLM-driven search engines like Perplexity or Google, they just don't echo out your input as explained here. It goes through different search engines. So like Perplexity uses Google, obviously Gemini is using Google as a search engine, and it's going through pretty much the different variation of queries you search for. And then after it goes through the query fan out, it tries to look for the most relevant output based on that answer. So what I mean by this, so if you search for like CRM for SaaS company for 50 to 150 employees, which is like really, really hyper focused, and it's probably a search query somebody would do within ChatGPT because it's more of like a conversational based, right? Whereas traditional SEO, it's really sequential. So somebody would just search for like CRM for SaaS companies. But obviously there's like AI overviews where people like can get this answer from too as well, which is important. But currently the main thing we want to focus on is ChatGPT, right? And how to capture a lot of like that visibility there. So somebody would search for something like this, then the LLM pretty much rewrites, expands the query behind the curtain, pretty much goes head to head with your exact query you're searching for, but then also looks at semantics, anything related to your query. And again, I explained before, like different variations of that query. So here's like an example of Perplexity. If you do this exact search, pretty much you can see here, what's it searching for? It's searching for best CRM for SaaS companies, 50 to 150 employees, which is the initial original request. Then you have CRM software for mid-sized SaaS companies, top CRM tools for SaaS businesses, 2025. So again, it's searching for different variations and semantic searches based on that. And again, these are like the type of queries you're going to want to pretty much rank for and try to answer within your content. Then obviously it goes through a lot of the different sources to find the most relevant answer. So this is something that's you should be focusing on in terms of like optimizing for AEO, understanding exactly, what your ICP is searching for. And you can see here in terms of what's currently being cited when it does these searches within search engines. You can see here at number one, we have Wikipedia at 7.8% of citation traffic distribution. And then at number two, we have Reddit, which is another important factor. And here's the current challenges in terms of like this exact breakdown I gave you is people are too reliant on pretty much AI to write their content. And what's going on is AI doesn't want to cite or source AI. So a good way where you can find these type of queries and these type of questions your ideal target audience would be searching for is pretty much the sales call method. So I would connect with your sales team and ask like what are like real questions customers are having that's related to the topics depending on like the content you're writing. So this can you can easily break down the most common occurring questions happening, or if you're more of like in a local business as well too, like what are the main problems people are having in terms of like whether they fill out a form, where you have like conversations with them. Again, this can break down exactly like the nitty gritty type of searches that have the highest intent, that's specific to your target audience. Like this is a really hyper focused search somebody would be searching for, where like it wouldn't really make sense to create like a dedicated blog in terms of like traditional SEO, because the search volume wouldn't really make sense in this case. But you could integrate this type of question into like an FAQ or a section within like your overall broad type of topic. So like it would be like CRM for like SaaS companies would be like your target. And then you can have like this exact type of query within like a FAQ or a header within your content, and have an easy like an output that is as quick as possible to answer this. I know this is probably like a good example, but I'm just trying to give you like an overall view of this. So again, comes down to like the format strategy as I talked about. Try to pretty much create an answer first architecture, direct answer in the first sentence. So you would have an H2, you would have like an overall topic and pretty much answer it as soon as possible. Which is why like having an FAQ within your content structure is by far the best way to influence citations and getting included within that, because you have the header of like a specific question and a quick layout response that's relevant to that H2. So we can see here the AI citations demand higher bar for content structure. This is basically from my AirOps research. So overall structure, like your typical traditional SEO structure, obviously having one H1, having H2s listed with H3s. So H1s are basically the overall topic of a page. So like within a blog, you can have, let me just, I guess, use this as an example, have like CRM for SaaS companies, would be like an H1, and then break down an H2, which is a subtopic of the overall topic. Then we can see here like list sections exist. So listicles are highly being sourced and it's easier and more prioritized within LLMs. And then again, proper heading alignment, which I just talked about, having H1, H2, H3s in general. And then also having like a verification layer to this aspect. So if you have do case studies on yourself, find like data resources based on what you're seeing within your business in general to share, because this is something that AI loves citing, is just original numbers, case studies, data sources in general would definitely help out in terms of being cited. Now, jumping into the nitty gritty, which in my opinion is definitely going to help in terms of the overall market gap for your specific industry. So we have phase 3, which is share of model. So what does this mean is pretty much how are you being referenced across different sources, different platforms in general. So we have the co-occurrence, meaning how many are you actually getting cited in a listicle type content. And then we have pretty much digital PR. So we have niche industry blogs, and then we have pretty much like forums in general. So are you being cited into relevant type of queries for that as well? So the reason why this is so important, aside from your traditional SEO, which is the main piece in the foundational stage, breaking it down to share of a model. So quick recap. So in October 18th, ChatGPT pretty much rolled out a major update. Like I said before, ChatGPT pretty much undergoes a search update, and similar to how Google has their search algorithm updates as well. There's pretty much a lot of fluctuations based on what ChatGPT rolls out. So like I saw it back when GPT-5 came out, where that affected a little bit more of like the outputs in general. But this specific update, which I've got from Profound, they pretty much noticed that after analyzing millions of prompts, average brand mentions dropped from 7 to 3.5. And then average brand visibility fell from 31%. And then we see here the visibility gap between top brands narrowed to 23%. So what does this mean? It just means ChatGPT is becoming a lot more competitive, and the top brands are pretty much capturing a lot of the search market share in terms of like LLM searches within ChatGPT. So this can pretty much give you like the overall blueprint as to why. And it's not because they rank higher in terms of the traditional search, because relevance still plays a part into this. So again, ChatGPT answers are becoming more competitive and tighter across different categories. And this exact blueprint, aside from traditional SEO, is what's going to pretty much differentiate you from the competitors. So we can see here again a visibility score over time, a huge drop within that specific date range for every single category in general. So what does this mean? How do you like pretty much beat the competition? So I call this the AEO multi-step brand touchpoint. So pretty much what this means is, let's say you search for a specific query. So in this case, I just did like B2B leads database. So it comes down and pretty much pulls a lot of different citations to influence its answer and output, right? So it gives you a breakdown like what to look for in a B2B leads database, gives you the sources in that end, and then it gives you like recommended platforms. So we can see here I think there's like 4 different platforms it's recommending, right? So looking at the citations, this pretty much gives you the blueprint into exactly what to do. So we can see here, Uplead is pretty much being referenced by its site itself. So this is definitely more of an SEO effort. So they're probably getting a lot of authority through like the backlinks, brand mentions. They're also getting pretty much an authority from like all the content that they write. So they're an authority in that space. So we can see here this specific citation is pretty much an outcome of traditional search. Then we have here is the listicles, right? So we also have here like some other SEO pretty much output of the citation. So like Hunter, Instantly, Ocean is directly being sourced because of their SEO efforts. But then we also have, again, the listicle efforts, which I'm gonna dive to next. So let's look into each cited source. So we have Cognism, which is a listicle that's being sourced. If we look for Uplead, we can see here position number 6. Uplead is being referenced here. I'm going over a quick description of what Uplead does, top features, and then pricing. We also have Sales Handy, who's also being sourced. So if we start, let's see if we see Uplead here. Uplead number 8. We can see here as well another mention within this list, and a quick pros and cons, quick like again listicle bulleted approach of the pros and cons, really easy to read on an LLM point of view. And then we have Casper here. If we search for Uplead again, position 10. So we can see here across like all of the sources that are being cited in terms of listicles, Uplead is mentioned, and then they also have a position within SEO. So that in itself is giving a lot of confidence to the LLM models to mention Uplead. So again, just because you create listicles on low domain authority sites doesn't necessarily mean you're going to improve your chances too. It comes down to domain authority and how authoritative a site is that is mentioning you. Because I guarantee you there's dozens and hundreds of similar B2B listicle pages. So again, trying to reach out to highly authoritative sites to get your brand mentioned in listicles, which I do for my clients as well too, depending on the industry. So that's an important aspect. Then we have Reddit, which is really important. So quick breakdown on Reddit. So here's just a quick case study I did for a client specifically, where I've gotten the mention within Perplexity in like a day or two, and then I didn't really have a screenshot for ChatGPT, but a week after they got the like pretty much the same exact placement there. So they're in the solar industry. So what I did is number one, created a listicle guest post within a site, and it ranked within 24 hours at number 6. So again, it's meeting the standpoint of it's indexed within the traditional search. The entity is already established within phase one. Obviously, they already have trust within the search engines. We implemented schema markup, all that jazz that I've talked about there before. And then if we're looking at just in a standpoint of what's being referenced, again, listicles are extremely important of like what's currently being listed. So we pretty much implemented that listicle, have the brand listed at number one, and then obviously it's being ranked, right? So it's being ranked within Google number 6, and then if we're looking at number 2, it's currently position 2. So what we've also did is we've created a landing page specifically for that solar bottom of the funnel keyword that we have. And again, this is a brand new market that they expanded to, so they have no prior authority within that. And then what we also did is I pretty much created a Reddit post specifically for a query that's exactly relevant to the bottom of the funnel query that we have. I had lots of engagement in there. They're positioned really, really high within the thread and upvoted as a recommendation. So again, this pretty much supercharged looking at the exact breakdown of the multi-step brand touch point that I just covered. Exactly what we're seeing here. So we're covering the SEO standpoint, getting a brand mention from a high authority website that's relevant to the industry within the listicles. And then we also have a Reddit post, which is being cited as a source and helping supercharge that. So the ChatGPT is pretty much, there's a lot more sources to work with, and there's a lot trust built due to the brand mention on these different type of touch points that I just talked about that help them get visible within LLMs, but also getting referral traffic from Reddit, getting referral traffic from being a listed source for a bottom of the funnel keyword ranking extremely high. So if this is something that interests you as well, like if you're a brand in itself and you want to do something similar, there's a link below in the description to where you can book a free consultation call with me, a free discovery call, and then we can dive into different opportunities on that end. But yeah, outside from that, again, we have the last phase, which is phase 4, which is the human layer. So again, we're talking about authentic discussions, but the main thing I want to highlight here is the sentiment analysis. So sentiment plays a huge part. So I mean, I can't give you any advice from this aside from just provide good services, good products, and don't have a negative reputation. But you could get cited within even like AI overviews. Like you can get cited, but negatively, where people don't want to work with your brand, which is why sentiment is becoming and brand overall is becoming such an important piece, which it should have been regardless outside of like traditional SEO. Like you don't only want your only source of traffic coming from traditional SEO. You also want to focus on different platforms in general, because again, if we look at here, the overall total visits from different type of platforms is extremely important. And I think the most important piece to this as well is Reddit in general. So talking about the pretty much shifts and changes, we did see a period where Reddit, specifically within the blue line here is ChatGPT, based on Reddit citations, was like at the utmost peak. Then we did see a drop after the Num 100 update. So Reddit was still like pretty much like the number one cited source aside from Wikipedia and ChatGPT, but now we're seeing back like an uptick growth back for ChatGPT in general. So again, good trends, and we're seeing Reddit becoming a much more stronger position based on the last couple of months. Before we saw was at a peak, then we saw a drop. So authentic discussions, getting your brand placed within Reddit is extremely important. And just a quick rundown as well too, since like Google pretty much had a partnership with Reddit. Google's pretty much using it to train AI data and AI outputs. So if you look at Google AI overviews, Reddit and Quora, a lot of these social platforms have more of a stronger position in comparison to the citation source I gave you for ChatGPT. But aside from that, we can see here, due to that partnership, month over month, there's insane amount of organic traffic pretty much for Reddit in itself. So what I've been doing for my clients is I've been pretty much utilizing this uptick in growth to have that brand mentioned for a lot of bottom of the funnel keywords that's relevant. So outside from also influencing the output from the LLMs, we're also positioning within traditional searches where people are searching for specific queries, specific products, specific services that they're looking for. And I'm getting their pretty much the brand integrated within that too. Again, if you're interested in something similar to this, there's a link in the description below. Feel free to book a call, a free discovery call, and then I can, pretty much break this down for your specific needs and your brand as well. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, subscribe, comment if you have any questions, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one.